everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to crochet this poncho. I call it my crazy cross stitch poncho, and I'll show you why in just a second. So this it's quite big, and I have a small space, so I can't show you it all in its entirety, but as you did see from the photos there on my dress form. Now this is a one size fits most. You can make it bigger just by, I would add more rows of the crossover stitches, and then you can add, I put that edge on it at the end. So let's go ahead and get a measurement for you in case you want to know. So the collar, when you first start, it'll appear pretty wide, but at the end I do put a couple rounds of single crochet around that to make it not quite so wide, but that's optional. You can do it however you like if you don't want any rows of single crochet. But from the point of the poncho at the top down to the point of the bottom is approximately 28 inches, okay? And then we're going to go across from, how about this point of the arm all the way to the other point of the arm. That would be a good measurement, I guess. And it is almost 39 inches or so. Now, like I said, it is a one size fits most in general. But if, like I said, if you want to make it larger, continue with the crossovers, and then whenever you decide that it's close to being big enough, this border here is about two inches. But of course you can make it bigger. You can add fringe, you can add one row of single, whatever you want, one row of double crochet, you can add 5 rows of double crochet. You can border it however you'd like. Okay, now this is the reason why I call it the crazy cross stitch poncho. Now when you look at it, I'm going to show you this because I don't want you to think that you're doing anything wrong. It's supposed to look like this. So as you can see, it is you will need to know how to do single, double, and front post triple crochets, which I do cross over one another. So I would consider it intermediate, but I still say that you'll probably be able to do it if you can do those stitches. In general, I'll show you how to do the rest. But as you can see, the point, it is a 2-point poncho. So here is the point. Right here you can see the increases right here that it has all the way down. So when you look on this side, you can see the cross stitches right here are going downward. But when you cross over to the other side of the poncho, you can see them slanting this way. Now it's supposed to be like that. The reason why is because it goes around, since it's worked in around, these cross stitches go around like this, and they end up straight in the front. Well, not quite straight, but pretty straight. But that's what it looks like. So it's my crazy cross stitch poncho. I think it turned out really cool, and I really am liking that yarn I used. So let's go ahead and get a look at that. Okay, for this project, I used a King Cole chunky tweed. Now it is 72% premium acrylic, 25% wool, and 3% viscose. Viscose is all those multicolored flecks that you see in the yarn. So this is a bulky number 5. You don't have to use this yarn. Any bulky 5 will work just fine. You are going to need about 1,300 yards of a bulky number 5. Now it is a one size fits most, but as I mentioned, if you do want to make it bigger, you will need more yarn. I don't have the size adjustments for a child or anything at the moment. But that's the yarn that I use. Now that brooch that you see in the pictures, someone actually gave this to me because I collect brooches, but this was purchased at Hobby Lobby. And the size hook that I'm using is a size K, which is a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. There might be a time where you see me using 2 different hooks, but they are both 6.5 millimeter crochet hooks. Alright, so we're going to start off with a big long chain, and we are going to be slip stitching in the first stitch to form one large ring for the neck hole. So you want to start off with a chain of 78. And when you have your chain of 78, you want to go ahead and follow it down without twisting your chain. And we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch. Just like that. And now what we're going to do is chain one. That chain one does not count as a stitch. It does not count as anything. So now what we're going to do is work right back in that same spot that we just slip stitched into and single crochet. And now I'm going to work along my ring here, and I'm going to put one single crochet in every stitch all the way around until I get back to my starting point. Just like that. So one single all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you right here where we started. All right, I have made it to the end of row 1. And I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first single crochet. Not that chain one that's right there, but that first single crochet. Slip stitch into it. And I'll have a total of 78 stitches, just like we had 78 chains. So that'll end around 1. So now what we're going to do is place a couple stitch markers for the 2 points of our poncho. So I'm just going to use these pieces of yarn. So the first point is actually going to start right here in this first spot. So if you just want to leave your hook there and that can be your, your marker, that's fine. But otherwise you can just kind of do that. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to count over 39 stitches. We do not count this first stitch here that our stitch marker is in, because that's where we're going to work right back into the same spot that we just slip stitched into. So when you pull it out, you can see right there is the stitch that we're going to work in. Okay, so do not count that one. Maybe I'll just go ahead and put my stitch marker in that one. So right there is where we just slip stitched into. You see that? Don't lose your, pull your yarn up. Okay. See the stitch that we just slip stitched into right there. Put your marker there. That way we don't get confused. Or I don't get confused anyways. Okay. Now, not counting that first stitch, we're going to count over 39. So this would be number 1, 2, and that 39th one, we will put a stitch marker. Now, just to be certain, if you would like to count on both sides, if you do not count the 2 stitches that the points or that the stitch markers in, you should have 38 stitches on each side. Okay? So there'll be 38 on this side if you don't count the stitch markers, and 38 on this side. Okay, now we'll go ahead and begin round 2. That's just easier to mark it off first and trying to have the count while you're doing it. So we're going to go ahead and start off right where we left off. Okay, so we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch. Okay, and we're going to, remember, it doesn't count as anything. We're going to work right back in this stitch, very first stitch here, where we put our marker, where we ended. And we're going to first put our first point. So what we're going to do is yarn over, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3. And we're going to chain 2. And we're going to go back into that same spot again, and do 3 more double crochets. So that is how the point of the ponchos are always worked here. 3 doubles, chain 2, and 3 doubles. Now we can go ahead and move that stitch marker out of the way. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip 2 stitches and put 3 double crochets in the next. So you skip, skip, and the next one, 3 double crochets. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to repeat that again. We're going to skip 2 stitches, skip, skip, and the next one we put 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1, skip 2, skip, skip, and 3 doubles into the next. Now we're going to repeat this until we get up to our next stitch marker. Chain 1, remember to chain 1, skip 2, skip, skip, and 3 doubles into the next. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this until I get to my stitch marker. There's 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 2, and 3 doubles into the next. Alright, so I have went it down here and I have made it to my next stitch marker. I should have 2 stitches that are empty before the stitch marker, and you can see that I do. 1, 2, and here's my stitch marker. So make sure you chain 1 after that last set of 3, skip those 2 stitches, and this will be our next point of our poncho. So we're going to go right into it, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 2 and work 3 more doubles into the same spot. 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll chain 1. You can go ahead and move that stitch marker out. We don't need that anymore. Now we're going to repeat what we did over here. So since we had 2 stitches there that we skipped on this side, we're going to start this side by skipping 2 stitches. So we did our chain 1 after our point here. Skip 2, skip, skip, and 3 doubles into the next. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 2, skip, skip, and 3 doubles into the next. Chain 1, skip 2, skip, skip, 3 doubles into the next. So I'm going to repeat this until we get to the end of the round. Alright, I have made it here to the end, and I have 2 stitches left there to skip. Make sure you chain 1 after your last set of 3, and we're going to end by slip stitching into our first double crochet here. Not the chain 1, but the first double. And that'll end round 2. Now you should have, okay, so this is what it looks like. So you should have a total all together, counting these groups of 3, each group of 3, you'll have a total of 28 sets of 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, if you count them all the way around, you should have a total of 28. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start row 3. So we are going to slip stitch 3 times until we get to our chain 2 space. I'm going to slip stitch into the back loop only of the next stitch, and then the back loop only of the next stitch, and then into the chain space, just like that. Makes it a little bit easier to find your stitches the next time when we get back around here. Okay, so what we're going to do is chain 1, and we're going to work our point right here in this chain 2 space. So we're going to work 3 doubles. There's 1, 2, and 3, and then we are going to chain 2, and we're going to work 3 more doubles. There's 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 1. Now what we're going to do is we are going to skip this group of 3, and we're going to work into this chain 1 space, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to chain 1. Again, we're going to skip this set of 3, and in this chain 1 space right here, we're going to work 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and there's 3. Chain 1, and we're going to repeat this until we get to our next point of our poncho. So in this chain 1 space, 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, skip this set of 3, and in the next space here, 3 double crochets. So I'm going to continue this, and I'll meet back up with you when we get to the next point of our poncho. Alrighty, I've made it to my next point. I did my set of 3, last set of 3. Make sure you chain 1, and here is the point of our poncho. There's the chain 2. So we're going to go work into that chain 2 space there, and we're going to work what we always do for the point. We're going to work 3 double crochets, a chain of 2, and then 3 more double crochets into that same chain 2 space, which will form our point on our poncho. That. Now we're going to do the same thing over here that we just did over here. So make sure you chain 1, and then you start again by skipping this set right here, and in this chain 1 space we will work 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip the set of 3, and in this chain space we work 3 double crochets. 2, 3, chain 1, and we're just going to repeat that until we get over here to the end, and I'll meet back up with you at the end. Alright, so I have made it here to the end of round 3, and you can see that I did my 3 double crochets. I chained 1, and now we're going to end by slip stitching into our first double crochet. That'll end round 3, and you should have a total now of 30 sets of these 3 double crochets. Okay, so that's what it kind of starts to look like. Now we're going to start round 4. Okay, round 4, we are going to go ahead and slip stitch 3 times to our chain 2 space. I'm going to go ahead and just slip stitch into the back loop. Like I said, this kind of makes it look a little bit more like a stitch, kind of down here, instead of just slip stitching. So just go into the back loop only, slip stitch, and then when you get to your chain space, you do regular slip stitch. Now we're going to start off again by chaining 1, and we're going to work our point just the same as we always do right here in this chain 2 space. So we're going to work 3 doubles. Excuse me. There's 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to work a chain of 2, go back into that same space. You can pull it over if you need to, and work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're not going to be doing any more chain 1s between our sets of 3. Here's what we're going to do. Okay, so this set of 3 right here, we didn't chain 1 after this. We don't want to chain 1. We're going to do a front post triple crochet. So we're going to yarn over twice like we're going to do a triple crochet. We're going to skip this stitch and this stitch. We're going to go into the last stitch of the group of 3 and front post triple crochet. And then what we're going to do is chain 1 to our chain 1 right there. Then we're going to yarn over twice for another front post triple crochet, and we're going to back it up, and we're going to go into the first stitch of that group of 3 and do a front post triple crochet. 1, 2, 3, just like that. So that is the only spot that we do our chain 1 now, is when we do these cross stitches. So we don't chain 1, we're going to work right into this chain space right here, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and there's 3. And now we're going to repeat what we just did. So we're going to do our cross stitches over the next set of 3. Remember, no chain 1 here. We're going to yarn over twice and do a front post triple crochet. So here's our set of 3. We're going to do it in the last one. Front post triple crochet, chain 1, that's where we chain 1, and then we're going to go and yarn over twice, and we're going to do a front post triple crochet into the first set double crochet of that set of 3. 1, 2, 3, like that. See that? The crossovers will show up a bit more as you get more going on, but now we're going to go ahead, do not chain 1. We're going to go into this chain 1 space, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. Okay? Don't chain 1. We're going to do our crossovers now. So we're going to front post triple crochet into the first stitch, or into the last stitch, I'm sorry, of this group of 3. Chain 1, and then we're going to go back to the first one and do a front post triple crochet. So that right now is the cross stitches, is the only place that we are chaining 1. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and in this chain 1 space here, we are going to do our 3 double crochets. Do not chain 1. Now we're going to do our cross stitches in this group of 3. So we're going to yarn over twice, we're going to do a triple crochet into the last stitch of that group of 3, front post triple crochet, chain 1, and then we're going to go back, cross over, and go to the first one of that group of 3 and do a front post triple crochet. Now this is the pattern we're going to repeat all the way around. So don't chain 1. We go directly into this chain space here, and we work 3 double crochets. And I'm going to repeat this pattern until I get to my next point of my poncho. So don't worry if your crossovers look a little bit tangled and stuff. It's okay. They'll look better later. They're just going to look a little tangly for now. So I'm going to keep going like in the same manner that we've been doing until I get over here to my point of my poncho. Alright, I'm coming to the point of the second point of my poncho here. So I did 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space. Remember, we don't chain 1 afterwards. Now I'm going to do my crossover here on this last 3 stitches here before the chain 2 space. Remember, you always chain 1 between the 2 stitches of the crossover. And now I'm going to go directly into that chain 2 space and work my point. So I will work 3 double crochets, chain of 2, oops, and 3 more double crochets. And that is the second point we finished. And that's kind of what it looks like so far. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side that we just did. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing over here that we just did over here. So we're going to start off, remember, we don't chain 1 anywhere anymore except between the 2 crossover stitches. So I'm not going to chain 1 now, I'm just going to work my crossover. So I'm going to do my front post triple around the 3rd stitch of this group of 3, chain 1, and then do another front post triple around the 1st stitch of that group of 3. And then in this chain 1 space here, I will work my 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3. Don't chain 1. Now we're going to work our crossover right here. So front post triple crochet into the last stitch there of that group of 3. Then we chain 1. That's the only spot. Remember that we chain 1 from now on, as far as in between the stitches. And then we do our front post triple again in the 1st stitch of that group of 3. So we're repeating what we did on this side of what we did on the other side. So in this chain 1 space here, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. Don't chain 1. Now we're going to do our crossover, front post triple into that last stitch of the group of 3, chain 1, front post triple into that 1st stitch of that group of 3. And now we're going to repeat this all the way until we get to the end. Chain 1 space, we put 3 doubles in it. Now remember, it's okay if your cross stitches look a bit tangly. That's fine. They'll look better, and we'll be able to straighten them out better the more we go along. So I'm going to repeat this pattern until we get over here to the end. Alright, I have made it to the end of round 4. I think it's looking pretty cool actually with those twisties in it. My husband came in and said it kind of looked like one of them old-fashioned mirrors, you know, Victorian style mirrors. But anyways, we're going to keep going, and we're going to make it look like a poncho, hopefully. So I always say hopefully because I kind of wing these as I go. So I just made my last stitch here was a crossover, as you can see, and I'm going to go ahead and end round 4 by slip stitching into my 1st double crochet. Now, how we're going to count from now on, we're going to count each set. So a crossover would be a set, and the chain, or the set of 3 double crochets will be considered a set. So if you count them, we'll have 1, this will be a set, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you should have a total of, now it jumped up, 64 sets all together. Now that, remember, that's counting. Each set of 3 double crochets is a set, and then the crossover counts as a set. So if you count each one of those all the way around, that's what you'll have. Okay, now we're going to start round 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. We're going to slip stitch 3 times until we get to our first, or our chain 2 space. So I'm going to slip stitch in the back loop of the first 2 stitches. So there's 1, back loop is the next, and then I'm going to go right into this chain 2 space and slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain 1, which does not count as anything, and I'm going to go ahead and work my point in this chain 2 space. So I'm going to work my 3 doubles, chain of 2, and 3 more doubles. Okay, so we're on round 5. Now what we're going to do, okay, we do not chain 1 now, remember. The only chain 1s we do now are in between the crossover stitches, and of course at the beginning of the row. So here we are where there's a set of 3 double crochet. So we're going to do a crossover right here. So we're going to post triple crochet in the last stitch of this group, chain 1, and then we're going to back it up and we're going to do a front post triple in the first stitch of that set of 3, and that will work our crossover. Now here we are at a crossover. Remember, we put the chain 1 space there. We're going to work 3 double crochets in that chain 1 space. Don't chain one or anything. Now we're at a set of 3 here. So we're going to go ahead and do our crossover in the last double crochet of that group of 3. We work our front post triple crochet. Oops. Chain 1 and then do a front post triple crochet in that first stitch there. So there we have done a crossover. Okay, we don't chain 1, remember. Now we're at a crossover here. Remember the chain 1 we did in between the crossover? That's where we're going to work our 3 double crochets right into that chain 1 space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, here we are at a group of 3, so we need to work a crossover, front post triple into the last double crochet, chain 1, and a front post triple into the first double crochet of that set of 3. And now we're at a crossover right here, that chain 1 space. In between those crossovers we work 3 double crochets. So I'm going to repeat this pattern until we get to the next point of our poncho. Here's a group of 3, so we work crossovers. It's very important to remember to chain 1 in between the 2 stitches of the crossover, because that's where we work our 3 double crochets on the next round. And then we're at our crossovers, and you can see that chain 1 space, work 3 double crochets in there. Just like that. So that's what it's starting to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this pattern all the way until I get to my next point. Okay, I've made it to my next point. My last space was a crossover, so now I'm going to go ahead and into the chain 2 space. I am going to work my point, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that point. Okay, now I'm going to work the same thing over here that I just worked over here. So we're going to start off, we got 3 double crochets here. We're going to start off with the crossover. Chain 1 in between the crossover stitches. It's very important that we do that. And then the next stitch here is the crossover, so you go in between it right there, that chain 1 space, and we work our 3 double crochets. So we're doing the same thing that we did on the other side. Next stitch is, or spot is 3 double crochets, so we're going to go ahead and work our crossover. So front post triple, oops, sorry about that. Chain 1 and front post triple in the first one, and then our next stitch right here you can see is a crossover, so we go into that chain 1 space and we work our 3 double crochets. So we're basically doing the same thing that we just did on the other side on this side. So I'm going to continue repeating this until I get here to the end, and I'll meet back up with you. Okay, I have come to the end of round 5. My last stitch there was a crossover, and then I'm going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into my first double crochet. Now you should have a total, if you count every 3 double crochets as a set and every crossover as a set, you'll have a total of 66 sets total. So now it's just a repeat of row 5. It's very easy repeat, and you'll always have 4 more sets than you did the previous round. So go ahead, let's go ahead and start round 6, and I'll just show you how easy it is. So again, we're just repeating round 5 for round 6. So we're going to slip stitch 2 times. We're going to go into the back loop of the next stitch, slip stitch in the back over the next one, and then we're going to be at our chain 2 space like that. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go into this chain 2 space and work our point. So that's where we work our 3 double crochets. Chain of 2 and 3 more double crochets like that. Okay, now you can see we're at a set of 3 double crochets. So we do a crossover here, triple crochet into the last set of that group of 3. Very important that you chain 1 in between the crossover stitches and triple crochet into the first double crochet of that set of 3. And then the next stitch right here is the crossover. You can see, go right into that chain 1 space from that crossover and work 3 double crochets. Next spot is 3 double crochets, so we're going to do our crossover here, triple crochet in that last stitch of that set, chain 1, and then we're front post triple crochet into the first stitch of that set, just like that. Now the next is crossovers, so that chain 1 space we work 3 double crochets, and then our next spot is 3 double crochets, so we're going to work our crossover, front post triple into the last stitch of that set, chain 1, and front post triple into the first stitch of that set. So we're just repeating round 5, and that's what it looks like. It is the same, as you can see, except for the crossovers and they kind of get catty cornered. Even though you're doing the same repeat, they catty corner each other, and that is fine. That's what we want to happen. So I'm going to repeat round 5 until I get my poncho as big as I want it to be. Now don't worry if your poncho appears to be a little wavy. Since we're working with post stitches, that will happen. You're not doing anything wrong. Plus it is a little bit of a wavy poncho. So I'm going to continue repeating row 5. Just did my crossover there. I'm on round 6 right now. Go into this crossover and work a 3 double crochets. Next stitch is 3 double crochets, front post triple around the last one, chain 1, front post triple around the first one. Now every time you complete a round, you will have 4 more sets than you did the previous round. And remember, we're counting the chain 3s as a set and the crossover as a set. So if you count them up total, you'll always have 4 more than you did the previous round. So you see how mine's kind of waving and flipping up. That's fine. It's because we're using post stitches. It's causing the flip. And the wave is just fine because we want a little bit of a wave in this poncho. But we will do some stuff later to kind of contain that flip. And so right now we're just going to focus on getting it as long as we need it to be. Repeating round 5 over and over and over. Alright, so show you where I'm at now. I got a lot of room here. My old camera stand broke, so now I'm using this huge one, and it takes up a lot of room on my desk. Okay, so what I have done is, now yours is going to probably curling. See how mine's curling there? That's normal. You know, you didn't do anything wrong. We're going to take care of that. Don't worry about that. So now I'm going to add some edging on mine. I have done a total, counting that first row as single crochet, 20 rounds total. Okay, now once you get your 20 rounds done, we're going to go ahead and start. Alright, so for round 21. As you can see, I have already slip stitched to my chain 2 space here, and we are going to chain 1, and we're going to go ahead and work what we always work here in the point of the poncho, which is 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to chain 2 and work 3 more doubles into that same spot. 1, 2, 3. Now what I'm going to be working is 1 double crochet in every stitch and in every chain 1 space. So the very first spot here, sometimes you have to pull your stitches back to see that first stitch. You don't want to miss that first stitch right there. So go ahead and double crochet and double crochet in each stitch. And when you get over here to your crossover stitches here, we double crochet in each stitch of the crossover and in the chain 1 space right here. So just go through that space and put a double crochet, and in the next, this is the other part of the crossover, make sure you get that stitch, and then here's your next set of 3. So we put 1 double crochet in each of those, and then we're at our crossover again, so we put a double crochet right here into the first stitch of it, a double crochet into the chain 1 space of it, so right in between, and a double crochet in the other part of the crossover, which is right here. And we're just going to repeat this until we get to our next point, our next chain 2 space. So here's our next group of 3, double crochet in each one of those, and then one more time, here's our next crossover. So we do a double crochet in the first stitch there of that crossover, and then in that chain 1 space in between these 2 stitches, double crochet, and then in the last stitch of the crossover, you can see it right here, right there. And then we're going to repeat this. Here's your next group of 3, so 1 double crochet in each of those. So I'll meet back up with you when I get to my next point of my poncho. Alright, I've made it to my next chain 2 space. So in the chain 2 space, we're going to do what we always do, is we're going to work 3 doubles, chain 2, and then 3 more doubles into that chain space. Okay, then we're going to start again doing the same thing we just did on the other side on this side. So make sure you get that first stitch there, and we're going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch and in every chain 1 space until we get back to our starting point. So I will continue along, double crochet every stitch and every chain 1 space just like the other side until we make it back around to the finish line, and that is where I will see you. Alright, I've made it to the end here. Slip stitch in my first double crochet. Now we're gonna kind of repeat that row. Let's slip stitch in the back stitch of the next 2 stitches like we always do. Back loop, slip stitch into our chain 2 space, chain 1. We're going to go ahead and work our point, which is 3 doubles, chain 2, and 3 doubles. Now what we're going to do is, okay, so we're just putting 1 double crochet in every stitch now. And now when you make it to your point down there, that chain 2 space, we're just going to do the same thing that we did. It'll be 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and then you just continue along the other side, putting 1 double crochet in every stitch. So this is my round 22, which is just a row of 1 double crochet in every stitch. So it's pretty easy now. I'm just trying to kind of level up that those post stitches. They really make your work flip up when you use post stitches, so you got to do things at the end to kind of resolve that flip, no matter what project you're using them on. So I'm going to continue around. You know, when I get to my point, I'll do the same thing that I did on my last time I got to that point, and then I'll continue around and I'll meet back up with you. How about right here where we end? Okay, I went around and I did the 2 rows of double crochet, and I went ahead and ended there and tied off. Now if you want to go around again, if you feel like yours is still flipping up a bit, you can go around it again. You can always block your work. You can add fringe, you can add a different type of border such as shells, picots, you know, whatever you want to do. I think I am not going to add a border to mine, but I am going to go around the top. So I got the back side of my work facing me at the moment. And this thing is pretty big. So so I'm at the back here, and I'm going to go around the top with a couple rounds of single crochet. So you can start anywhere around the back here. Just go into any stitch here and pull your yarn through, chain 1, go back into that same stitch and single crochet. Now I'm just going to work around, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So it'll be all the way around the front and all the way back around to our starting point, which is right here. And all this is going to do is clean up the top here, the top edge. So I'm just going to continue around, all the way around, 1 single crochet in every stitch. Like I said, I'm going around the front and then back around again to the back, and I'll meet back up with you when I get back around. Alright, I've made it back around to my starting point. I'm going to go ahead and end with the slip stitch into my first single crochet, like that. Now how many stitches you have here it's not that important, so as long as you have close to the same amount that we started with, that's fine. So what we're going to do, I'm not even going to count mine. So I'm going to go around one more time. So I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to go back into that same stitch, and I'm going to do 1 single crochet in every stitch again. Now this is to edge the neck. If you only want to do that 1 row of single crochet, that's fine, you know, however you'd like. But I'm going to do 2 rows, and when I make it back around, I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first single crochet and tie my yarn off, and then I'll tie any additional tails that I have hanging out, and then we'll go from there. Alright, that's it. Once you hide all your tails, you are done. I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial. I just put this brush on here for decor. You can do whatever you'd like. But I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Sorry that I didn't have lots of room. But don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Check out all my crochet tutorials, all my yarn content. I have giveaways and do all kinds of fun stuff on here, so you don't want to miss out. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on my next video.